Thank you for the opportunity to give my presentation here. I am Yoko Ikeda from Showa Women's University in Tokyo, Japan. The title of my presentation is Remembering and Moving Forward, Museums Commemorating the Disasters in Small Towns in Fukushima. Two museums I discuss here are located in Futaba County in Fukushima Prefecture. Futaba County consists of six coastal towns and two inland villages. The county was hit hard by massive earthquakes and tsunamis on March 11, 2011. The disaster known as the Great East Japan Earthquake caused extensive damage and massive casualties throughout northeast Japan. In Fukushima Prefecture alone, over 2,700 people were killed and over 200 people went missing by the tsunami. The loss of power supply to the facility after the big earthquake and tsunami triggered the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant accident. The accident happened at one of the two nuclear power plants located in Futaba County. It resulted in a long-term evacuation orders for towns and villages nearby, including Tomioka and Futaba towns, in which the new museums I discussed today are now located. I began my fieldwork in Futaba County in 2016. I was interested in people who wanted to come back or wanted to move there to rebuild their towns and communities. Evacuated towns and areas within the towns had been zoned and have been rezoned based on radiation level and the possibility of returning to the areas. The evacuation orders have been lifted at a different time for different towns and areas. In 2016, I visited Nara town in Futaba County for a few weekends, talking to people and attending events. For Nara town, the evacuation order ended in September 2015. At the time of my visit, the train service to the town had already been resumed. The coastal town of Futaba County are accessible by public transportation by train straight from Tokyo. For Tomioka town, just north of Nara town, the train station destroyed by the tsunamis were rebuilt and reopened in October 2017. Prior to that, the evacuation order had been lifted for the main parts of the Tomioka town in April of the same year. The other parts of Tomioka reopened in 2020, then the rest in 2023, allowing people to live in Tomioka town again. Today, except for 6.7% of the total land area, the evacuation order has been lifted for Tomioka. The population of Tomioka was nearly 16,000 at the time of the disaster in March 2011. As of February 2024, 2,335 people live in Tomioka, while over 11,000 people are registered as residents of the town but live elsewhere. Futaba town experienced the longest full evacuation. The partial lifting of the evacuation order came in March 2020, when 4% of the town's land area and the area around the train station became accessible to visit and work, but not to live. The newly rebuilt train station reopened in the same month, in September of the same year. The Greatest East Japan Earthquake and Nuclear Disaster Memorial Museum opened. However, it was not until August 2022, over 11 years after the disasters, the evacuation order was lifted for 15% of the total land area of Futaba town, making it possible to live in the town again. So when I visited the museum in January 2022, no one could be living in the town, yet still, the museum was accessible by public transportation, the town bus from the train station. Inside the museum, I saw a group of college students, around 30 people from a university in Tokyo visiting there. The food court in the adjacent building had plenty of customers eating lunch. Yet otherwise, the town was very quiet. I hardly saw anyone once I stepped outside of the train station. Once a pair of journalists talked to me and asked if I were a resident. I was thinking about asking the same question. Apparently, we're both looking for someone local to talk to. The population of Futaba town was about 7,000 people. in 2011 when the disaster struck. Today, about 5,300 people are registered as Futaba town residents, but only a bit over 100 people actually live in the town. Many of them, more than half of them, according to one account, are newcomers, not returning residents. I have met such newcomers during my fieldwork in Futaba town and in Naraha town. They both first got involved with Fukushima as a volunteer, then decided to work for an organization supporting rebuilding the town and the communities in these towns. Even before the disasters, these towns in Futaba County were not particularly highly populated areas, even for Fukushima. Iwaki, located next to and just south of Futaba County, is a city with a population of about 320,000 people. During the long evacuation, many evacuees from Futaba County decided to settle down in bigger cities in Fukushima Prefecture, like Iwaki. It is commutable distance between Iwaki City and Tomioka. In 2017, people I have met in Tomioka town mostly said they were commuting to Tomioka to work from Iwaki or elsewhere. I had thought two museums in one county commemorating the same disasters seemed an excess, especially considering the size of Tomioka and Futaba town. And I wondered why there are two. It turned out that both had a very different origin. The Great East Japan Earthquake and Nuclear Disaster Memorial Museum in Futaba town is doing well since it opened in September 2020. The number of visitors to the facility was over 93,000 in 2023. The total number of visitors to the museum since it opened is about 276,000. The museum has become a part of what they call hope tourism, that promote visiting a place in Fukushima to learn about the disasters, to think of a better, sustainable future. The idea of creating the Disaster Memorial Museum was formed and led by a panel of experts in Fukushima Innovation Cost Framework, that is a national project aiming to support the recovery of the region and to attract new industries and businesses to the coastal Fukushima area. The work of creating and maintaining exhibitions for the Disaster Memorial Museum is outsourced to a company which is an expert in museum businesses throughout Japan. The Historical Archive Museum of Tomioka opened in July 2021. In 2 years, in July 2023, the museum welcomed its 50,000th visitor. As the museum was newly built after the disaster, people may think that the museum was planned and built as a part of the post-disaster recovery efforts led by the government. My interview with the chief curator of the museum revealed, however, it all started with a small, no-budget project in 2014 to save all documents and artifacts from homes planned to be demolished in Tomioka. The curator, who happened to be a historian by training, left his previous job to work as a civil servant in Tomioka town's municipal office a few years after the disaster, wanting to help people and the town. As many people had to leave or demolish their houses, he and his team began collecting and getting artifacts, letters, old writings, and so on from residents. The items that tell the story of the history of Tomioka could have been easily lost or discarded if they were not saved of them. Initially, this was not a part of their paid job, but something they wanted to do and felt that needed to be done. The town began looking into finding a place to archive these items. The municipal officer, who was later also assigned to be the chief curator of the museum, told me that they initially explored the option of using an existing building, like a school or commercial building, closed after disasters and evacuation. However, in the end, he said that renovating one of these existing buildings as an archive was going to cost more in the long run. Building a new facility to suit the purpose was the most cost-effective option. Walking through the Historical Archive Museum of Tomioka One can see and feel Tomioka's history. The permanent exhibition includes ceramics from the region dating back 1300 plus years. Also on display are ordinary items that reflect vibrant everyday life in the past half century. There are a lot of items regarding the earthquake, tsunami, nuclear power plant accident, disasters, and evacuation. They are the main feature of the museum, but they are put in the context of the history of Tomioka. The exhibition shows that these disasters happen. However, the museum does not criticize or analyze these events. The chief curator told me that it should be up to visitors to decide what they make of it. Through his job, he often talked with town people and came across many residents who wanted a place to look back the whole disasters and to remember and share the spirit of and the culture of Tomioka. He told me that where someone is from is usually a part of the person's identity, but many people who became evacuees had felt negative about their hometown. Having the museum that displays the history of the town could possibly be one of the ways people can regain a perspective of their hometown. Surely my impression of the town changed since I am not from the town and have only been there years after the disasters. I couldn't help but to think of the town in association with the disasters. However, the exhibition made me imagine the town in a different way. There's no admission fees for the Historical Archive Museum of Tomioka. The curator told me that besides being an archive museum, he hopes that this town-run museum becomes a place for town's elementary and junior high school students to come over to learn about the town for their homework, or for Tomioka residents who currently live in or outside of the town to come over just to hang out and meet old friends. In a document, Tomioka Town writes that the town respects each resident's decision to come back or not to come back, or not deciding at this point. Meanwhile, the town seeks Furusato Tomioka no Fukko, which means the reconstruction of Tomioka, the hometown. Furusato, the hometown, is more than a physical location. It is a place you imagine as your place of origin. It gives a sense of warmth when you look back. The town-run museum appears to work well to boost people's sense of hometown. The Great East Japan Earthquake and Nuclear Disaster Memorial Museum in Futaba Town is a museum created with rather top-down planning at the national level, while the Historical Archive Museum of Tomioka started out as a small project to save documents and artifacts in Tomioka. What is common is that both museums remind people what can happen with tsunamis and earthquake. While the whole events are still a vivid memory for people who lived through them, there are children and the next generation of people who will not remember them. For my fieldwork, I was staying at a local hotel in Tomioka Town on March 16, 2022. The hotel is located close enough to the ocean that I could see it from the window of my hotel room. At about 30 minutes after 11 p.m., a big magnitude 74 earthquake hit Fukushima and surrounding areas. In a few minutes, tsunami warning was issued, but I was already heading toward the higher ground. Tsunami waves reached but at a low height, and they did not cause any real damage this time. Museums commemorating disasters can surely remind people that a disaster can happen at any time. Thank you for watching. This is the end of my presentation.